You're alone in a small conference room that still smells faintly like printer toner and cold coffee. Your laptop is open, and next to it, there's a single printed page, your account summary, folded once down the middle like you didn't want to fully look at it. Your phone buzzes with a group chat message from a coworker. Are you adding more here or waiting? You don't answer. Instead, you type one more question into your AI investing assistant. It replies in that calm, executive summary voice. Clean bullets, confident wording, a neat conclusion. And you feel your jaw unclench. Your shoulders drop. It's like someone reached over and turned the autopilot dial to smooth. For a moment, it feels safer. It feels handled. But right under that relief is the weird part. You notice you're suddenly willing to take a bigger swing than you were 60 seconds ago. If it made you calmer, why does it also feel like the risk just went up? Here's the reveal. Sometimes the AI isn't improving your judgment, it's multiplying your conviction. And once conviction goes up, risk often follows, even when the facts didn't change. You won't see reassurance the same way again. I'm Mr. B. I'm fascinated by money, obsessed with financial psychology, and I care about the quiet reasons people feel stuck even when they're doing the right things. If you like this kind of calm, forensic way of thinking, subscribe and join me. And in a minute, I'm going to show you a simple one-page decision receipt and a quick illustrative audit that turns calm words into measurable risk. Now, to be clear, AI tools can be genuinely useful. They can summarize, organize, translate complexity into plain language, and help you see considerations you missed. That's real value. The problem isn't that the tool is bad. The problem is the role the tool quietly slides into when you're tired, uncertain, or emotionally loaded. Because there's a moment when an AI assistant stops being decision support and becomes emotional support. And emotional support has a different job. Its job is to reduce doubt. Its job is to make you feel steadier. And that's exactly why it can become a risk multiplier. Think about what's actually happening in your body in that conference room moment. You weren't just looking for information. You were looking for a feeling, the feeling of being cleared to proceed. The AI answered, and your nervous system treated the calm tone like a green light. That's the first missing to notice. The felt truth is, I'm calmer, so it must be safer. But the structural truth is, I'm calmer, so I'm more willing to act. Those are not the same thing. And here's a second mismatch. You tell yourself you're outsourcing research, but what you're often outsourcing is responsibility. The tool doesn't just give you words, it gives you cover. It gives you a story you can stand behind if it goes wrong. To be clear, this isn't about intelligence. Smart people do this constantly because the brain loves anything that turns a messy decision into a clean narrative. Now watch how the reassurance loop forms. It usually starts after a little pain. A red day, a headline, a friend's comment. You put in earbuds, open the chat, and ask something like, should I be worried? Or you ask for a confidence score. Or you ask it to simplify the thesis, which often means remove the ambiguity. And if the first answer doesn't calm you, you ask again, just phrased differently, until you get an answer that lands. If you've ever scrolled back through your own chat history and noticed the same question asked 3 ways, you already know what that is. You weren't searching for truth, you were searching for relief. Here's the sticky part. Relief feels like accuracy. Reassurance feels like evidence. And when something lowers your anxiety, your brain often tags it as trustworthy, even if the underlying uncertainty didn't move an inch. To be clear, the presence of a confident answer is not the presence of a reliable edge. So where does the cost show up? Because if the AI is just words on a screen, it can feel harmless. This is where the audit matters. Let me give you an illustrative example with simple numbers, just to make the mechanism visible. Imagine you pay for an AI investing tier that costs $29 per month. That's $29 times 12, or $348 per year. On its own, that's not life-changing. But now imagine the tool does what it's designed to do. It makes you feel more ready to act. And that changes your behavior. Say the reassurance effect leads to 3 extra small adjustments per month, maybe shifting positions, adding a little here, trimming a little there, because it feels responsible, like you're staying on top of things. If each of those adjustments is a $2,500 trade, and the all-in friction from spreads and execution slippage averages an illustrative 0.3%, that's $7.50 per trade. 3 extra trades per month is $22.50 per month, or $270 per year. Now stack it. $348 for the subscription plus $270 in friction is $618 per year. And that's before you even talk about the harder-to-see costs, like the possibility of short-term tax drag from frequent changes, or the attention cost of living inside your account activity. Here's the contrast that matters. The headline metric you're fixating on is better advice, but the revealed metric is more conviction-driven activity and its stacked costs. And even if you disagree with the exact numbers, and you should because they're illustrative, the structure is the point. The bill often arrives through behavior, not through the subscription. To be clear, the most expensive part of emotional support advice is rarely the line item you can screenshot. Now we can draw a clean boundary that helps. Decision support is when the tool increases your clarity while you still own the reason. You can restate the assumptions. You can explain what would change your mind. You can name the conditions where the idea fails. Decision replacement is when the output becomes the reason. The AI said it's strong. The AI said it's undervalued. The AI said it aligns with my goals. And when someone asks you what you actually believe, you can't say it without opening the chat. A simple test is this. Could you write a short paragraph that starts with, "I believe this because," without quoting the AI? Not because you need to prove anything to anyone, but because ownership lives in that sentence. This is where the autopilot metaphor earns its keep. A co-pilot can read instruments and call out risks, but you still need a pilot with hands on the wheel. The danger is when the dashboard looks so clean and the ride feels so smooth that you stop noticing speed. Now let's talk about prompting, because this is where confirmation becomes stealthy. AI systems are responsive. That means your prompt isn't just a question, it's a steering wheel. If you ask, "What are the risks and uncertainties here?" you invite a wider search. If you ask, "Convince me this is a good idea," you are literally requesting a sales pitch. And once you feed it a handful of bullish links, bullish threads, bullish talking points, you've built a confirmation funnel. You didn't ask it to explore, you asked it to endorse. This is the third mismatch in the first half. You feel like you're doing research, but structurally, you're curating a case. The output can look analytical either way. The difference is what you asked it to do. To be clear, the AI can't protect you from a question designed to produce permission. So, what are practical guardrails that keep the tool useful without surrendering accountability? Not rules that guarantee outcomes. Nothing does that. But guardrails that keep the role clean. One guardrail is the decision receipt, a literal one-page note. It has 3 boxes. First, assumptions I'm relying on. Second, what would prove me wrong? Third, how big is this decision allowed to be relative to my total risk? The AI can help brainstorm content for those boxes, but it cannot be the person who signs them. Another guardrail is the disconfirming prompt. Before you let the tool strengthen your belief, ask it to weaken it. Ask for the strongest counter-argument. Ask what information would change the conclusion. Ask where the reasoning is most fragile. The point isn't to become pessimistic. The point is to keep the tool from becoming a one-way confidence pump. And a third guardrail is time friction. If the output makes you feel an immediate drop in anxiety, treat that as a signal to pause, not a signal to proceed. Even a simple waiting window, long enough for the relief to fade, helps you see whether you're acting on clarity or acting on comfort. Because comfort is a powerful drug in markets. It changes your position sizing in ways you don't notice. It shortens your time horizon. It makes you interpret uncertainty as solved. To be clear, this isn't a warning against using AI. It's a warning against using AI as a therapist in an investing context. Therapy is about feelings. Investing decisions, when they're healthy, require you to hold uncertainty without needing it to disappear. And that brings us to the quiet identity drift underneath all of this. When you repeatedly go to the AI to settle your nerves, you practice becoming the kind of person who needs external clearance. You become the kind of person who mistakes a smooth ride for a safe road. The autopilot dial gets turned up not because you chose recklessness, but because you chose relief. But when you use the tool as a mirror and you keep your hands on the wheel, you practice a different identity. You become the kind of person who can say, here are my assumptions. Here's what would prove me wrong. Here's the size I can live with. And yes, uncertainty is still here. In the end, the best use of an AI assistant is not when it makes you feel certain. It's when it helps you ask better questions while keeping ownership where it belongs. So next time you feel your shoulders drop after an AI answer, notice what got calmer. Was it the facts, or was it your fear? If you want, keep it simple. Close the chat before you act. Write your reason in your own words. Put a sticky note on your monitor that says, calm is not a signal. And remember the metaphor. The smoother the autopilot feels, the more important it is to check your speed, your visibility, and your braking distance. Because at the end of the day, the tool doesn't own the risk. The human pressing the button does. I'm Mr. B. Thanks for thinking with me. If you want more episodes like this, calm, research-minded, and practical, subscribe. And the next time the AI makes you feel handled, ask the question that keeps you free. Am I using this as a co-pilot, or am I letting it drive? Thanks for watching, and see you in the next videos.